And I would like to invite Ilan to speak about the first topic. Is it okay?
Yeah.
You have? Okay, okay.
You just have to remember to make a shekef. So, thank you, Sarah. Thank you very much. And thank you for coming. And I wanted to say something for our French friends, but they are not here, unfortunately. So I'm going to talk today about the Israeli tort law regarding cases in which the victim is a fetus, not the embryo, which is when something is created in his mother's belly till I think the 20 weeks, it's an embryo, and then it becomes a fetus. Okay, but the lecture is about them both. Okay, and the real question is this a human being or not? Can you hurt negligently this fetus without paying compensation, or do you have to compensate it? And who do you compensate? The fetus or his parents? Because basically we have. There's one a second. Yeah, all of it. Okay. Because basically, the right of claim for personal damages is given in the Israeli law to a human being from the moment he is born till the moment he dies. Now, when we speak about the fetus, there is a question: does he own any legal rights? And there are two different situations. The first is when the fetus dies inside before he was born, okay, because of the negligent act. And the second is that he was born and read correctly the ultrasound. Maybe they didn't send her to the right tests. And of course, if they knew something was going wrong with the pregnancy, they would announce the parents. They would give them the information, and the parents will have the opportunity to decide whether to terminate this pregnancy or to deliver the baby anyway. But the doctors didn't see that there was a problem, okay? They were negligent. The parents didn't have the information. They didn't have the chance to decide whether to terminate the pregnancy or not, or to bring the baby. And the child is born with defects which will inflict all his life. Lesser salary, for example, lesser salary he will earn, okay, because he's not perfectly all right. And the question is, who has to pay for this loss? Or more expenses he will have for housekeeping or for any other needs that somebody who is all right doesn't have to spend, okay? The question is he entitled to compensation from the doctors of his mother that didn't carry the right test, or who didn't read correctly the ultrasound? Now, the Israeli tort law is based on the principle of restitution. Okay? If you negligently hurt me,
שקף לא עבר.
לא, לא עוקר, לא עוקר?
No.
Not in this? This one. Okay, thank you. The usually taught law is based on restitution. It means that you have to put me financially in the place which I would be in if you didn't do the wrong act or omission. Okay? If you hurt my hand, yeah, and my hand is paralyzed, you have to pay compensation for the outcomes of this loss. If my hand is, if I can earn 1,000 euros per month less, you have to pay them. If I have to spend more money for housekeeping because I have only one hand, you have to pay them. Now, this principle of restitution is the basic. It means that you have to bring me financially, yeah, to the point in which I would be in, assuming your wrongful act or omission wasn't done. Now, in a case of a child that brings a claim against the doctors that didn't diagnose his defects while he was a fetus, this principle doesn't fit. Because what would he say, this young boy? Put me in the position in which I was, yeah, assuming the doctors acted professionally. Okay, what would happen then? If they acted professionally and they told his parents that there is a problem, he would never be born. So what is he saying? It is better for me, better death than my life. That is their claim. And it is a question, is it a moral question that he can raise and he can act with it? Is it an argument that one has to accept? And we have to remember that there is a variety of cases that can be the outcome of the negligence practice of the doctors. He can be, with brain damage and then retarded or paralyzed. He can also be with a minor damage, shorter than other boys or something. Is it right that in every such a case he can bring a suit against the doctor? This was the question. And the other question is it moral to put him, okay, this child, in a situation that he has to say it's better for me, better death than life for me, because of you, dear doctor. In order to, you have to decide what is better, to deny his right just because proper behavior of the doctor would end with him not being born at all, or giving him compensation without regarding this principle of restitution. Of course, it is not only a legal question. It is far more wide question that involves moral questions, ethical questions, religious questions, the value of life, and that's why this lecture is so relevant today, because of the value of life stands in the midst of this subject. The Israeli Supreme Court decided 30 years ago that although the situation doesn't fit the idea of restitution, it should be fair to recognize the rights of the child rather than ignoring them. And by this precedent, the child can sue the damages from the doctors for the negligence of these doctors in those cases where he suffers from serious defects. The result of this judgment looks, in my opinion, fair and right, but, however, the main difficulties did not disappear. What is a defect serious enough to decide that for this child, death is better than life? Who will decide it for him? And what about the main principle of restitution? And there is another problem. Look, if we recognize the fetus' right to sue the doctors after he is born, what would prevent him from suing his parents for their decision to bring him
to life?
Yeah, but they knew that he's going to be with defects. Yeah, so this is a very serious question, and this anomaly brought a legal change in Israel 3 years ago, when the Supreme Court decided that it will be no more the child's action, but the parents' right for damages. Okay? The child cannot sue anymore, but his parents can, and the scope of the damage is more or less the same. Okay? Because the assumption is that the parents will have to spend on this child more money to help him because of his malformations, of his illness, of the outcomes of the negligence, even when he's grown up and earns lesser salary. They will have to pay. It is not very clear, but the main idea is the thinking that the doctor or those who made the wrongful act or omission has to pay. Okay? This remains the same. Now the child doesn't have any more to say, better death than life for me, but the parents have to say, if the doctor would have given us the information during the pregnancy, we would decide to terminate it. In other words, dear son, you were unwanted. This is what they have to say today. And it's of course, it is far from being a perfect solution, but anyway, the damage is paid. Still, there are many difficulties with a new precedent. And the main problem is that the money goes to the parents. It's their, the idea now is it is not the fetus which became a child. It's not his damage, it's his parents' damage. And the problem is when, till now, when the compensation was granted to the child, it was his money and the authorities were involved. Okay? They watched what the parents do with this money they get. Yeah? And they now, when the money goes to the parents directly for what is called their loss, who can prevent them to take the money and go to a nice vacation in Hawaii? Okay, they can do anything they want with this money. So this is a problem, and this question leads us to the other part, which is more serious question in my view. When the fetus that was negligently hurt died before he was born. And this is far more challenging because it deals in the question of the value of the fetus life. Do you recognize it or do you ignore it? And as I mentioned before, the right of claim is given in the Israeli law to a human being. In the Israeli law, you are a human being from the moment you are born till the moment you die. The fetus in this regard was never in the status of a human being. Therefore, he, of course, he has no right of claim. What we do in this case, do the parents have the right of claim, to put a claim against something? And look, the question is, as I see it, when you suffer, let's assume you're involved in a car accident, okay? And you have personal damages in your body, you are compensated, right? If you have your watch in the same accident, your watch is broken, you are compensated. So would you say the life of a fetus is lesser than the watch you wear? This is a very big. Can someone kill your fetus and doesn't pay compensation? Is it nothing? And you know, this serious question may rise in many fields of in every field of negligence. Let's assume not only medical negligence like we talked about before, but let's assume a woman goes in the street, okay, and because of the constructor's negligence, a stone falls from the building and hurts her, and the baby she carries, the fetus she carries, dies. Could she put a claim against the parents, not only her, put a claim against the constructor? Or some woman is involved in a car accident, like we said before. She's on the 8th month of pregnancy, and the child she carries, the fetus, dies. Do the parents, not only her, the parents have the right of claim? The problem is that in the Israeli law, I think in the European and the English law and the common law also, the Toto compensates usually only the person who was wounded. Okay? And there are only in special cases, in very hard conditions, that one is entitled to compensation for his reaction, okay, to the damage caused to his family relative, okay, what we call in Israel ilchat al-suqa, okay, and he has to prove that because of his reaction, he suffered very, very serious mental disability or illness, okay. Of course, the parents that lost the fetus doesn't necessarily meet these conditions, and in those cases, the value of the fetus might be 0. Is that fair? In one case, where the fetus died before he was born because of medical negligence, this doctrine was widened by the Supreme Court that decided that
Okay, Matthew, we are connected, but we have the presentation of Ilan by the moment. Can you hear us?
Yes, we can hear you, yes.
Okay, I can see you.
So you hear me, Matthew?
Yes, I can hear you, that's fine.
Okay, how are you? Very, very good. Doing my best.
Okay.
So
Now, in one case where the fetus died before he was born because of medical negligence, this doctrine was widened by the Israeli Supreme Court that decided that in this special, very special case, the parents are entitled to compensation even if they don't meet this remarkable condition of mental illness. But it is not yet a judgment that generally recognizes the fetus value. And what we try to do is to make it a general rule, which will recognize the value of a fetus life. And it could be very interesting to hear from you, maybe, about the legal situation in your countries or in yours.
Yeah.